Well, hello and welcome to episode 191 of the Adoption and Fostering podcast from the NF Network with me, Al Coates, and his good self, Mr.
Scott Casanrone.
Bo- and how are you, Mr. Rene?
Very good, Mr. Coates.
I have no idea.
I think you threw me because you called me Mr. Rennie.
Yeah, I was
It's
thinking
been a long
maybe...
time since it's a long time since I've been called that, but yes, I'll let you away with it. Don't worry. We just
Bless
won't
your heart.
tell anybody that I'm married to, you know.
Indoors.
Yeah. And how are you,
bless your heart.
Coatesy?
I'm okay, actually. That's a really good question. I have no idea.
Mm. That was going to be my response, but I just thought I'd say I'm well. So,
Yeah, I think I'm well. I genuinely think I'm well. I think there's lots of plates being spun. My mum's not very well, so that's been quite a thing. So that it's quite a peculiar time of life, isn't it? Because my children are sort of moving. My children are well, that is the news, is that several of my children are moving on from the house,
Mm.
and we're potentially going to become a household of just four.
Wow.
And I have no idea what to do
Very
with myself.
well. I mean, what will you do with yourself? I mean, you might not get to stay in the man cave quite as often as you have been
Well,
last few
that
years.
potentially there is that. That's a very problematic. Yeah, I'll have to get them all a hobby. But I was thinking it's 25 years since there was any less than there was three of us, me, Anne, and Paula.
Mhm.
And if people who are coming straight to the podcast, that's they're like, what? This strange
Polyamorous.
polyamorous thing going on. No, it's not. It's Mrs. Coates and me, and Anne is Paula's friend, who's always lived with us and always will. And so it's 1999 since the last time it was just the three of us. So it's going to be. We went up to six, and then eight, then nine, and then yeah. It's just really weird.
However
Really
many,
weird.
it's just been like like one of them no, them
Saloon
spilly
doors.
doors. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, swing doors.
Well, I don't know about you, but I mean, you had a point where there was three children,
Mm.
um, and there's this sort of strange phenomenon where you reach a capacity, you're outnumbered, so
Mhm.
it's just busy. You're just always
Well,
busy, aren't you?
I mean, the conversation has come up in the last couple of days actually, because Brandon currently has a girlfriend and it's going very well. He's also looking for another job.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah, he's looking for another job as well, and he's looking for another job kind of closer to where she lives and where we live. And
Oh,
he came out with it yesterday. He said, "Well, if I get a job up there, then I'll be moving out." And I was like,
what?
What? Because we've got Jacob going to university in September. If he moves
Oh,
out, literally just be the two of us. Never mind three of you. At least you'll have somebody there.
oh my goodness, there'll be a murder.
I know, and it kind of got me to thinking, like, because obviously, like you say, we had three kids, and then one moved out, and then two moved out, so it was just me, Tris, and Jacob. And then during COVID, one came back, and then the other one came back. So it was five of us again, but very different kind of setup in terms of how we worked and how it all kind of blended. And then one moved out again, obviously, for lovely reasons in terms of, now I have a granddaughter, all that sort of stuff. But you do forget because you just grow accustomed to how life is. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden you're kind of facing this thing again where it's like, oh, okay, so there might just be, well, actually less. I mean, Jacob will still come home the odd weekend and at holidays and stuff like that. But,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just like, oh, okay. But it's funny because I mean, I've not experienced the empty nest thing yet. But is that not what we are waiting for as our children mature and become independent? I don't know. Because I don't think anybody
Oh,
ever prepares you for that, but whether it doesn't matter how you become a parent, you
it,
know.
it's quite a moment, isn't it?
Mm,
It's
yeah,
because
I think so.
yeah, and I am finding it quite peculiar. I mean, I'm looking forward to having some more space and time, but it is a
Mm,
real shift, like a gear shift in terms of
mm,
how we live our lives, and like how you yours. I've still got a 12-year-old. God
mm.
bless her little heart.
I know.
Um,
The good
she
one.
can, she can talk though. Honestly,
Oh, she'll get on well in a couple of weeks when she's
yeah.
got a visitor then.
Oh no, I might find me rocking in a corner. And she usually wants to talk about stationery, which is a 12-year-old girl thing.
Oh, okay.
I've
Yeah.
been field testing this. I've been doing some training. I did some training around the region a bit about whatever adverse childhood experience. And I was going, just out of curiosity, are 12-year-old girls sort of addicted to stationery? And they all went, yeah, yeah, yeah. Everyone who was a 12 year old, yeah, yeah, totally crazy up. It's like crack cocaine to them. They're just loopy. Um, and if you have you ever been to Squiggle? Do you know what Squiggle is?
No,
Do you not know what Squiggle is?
no.
Oh, Scott, it's a life half lived. Seriously. Next time you're in England, in Angleterre, as they say in French, get yourself to a local shopping mall or anywhere that's got a squiggle and just observe for about 30 seconds what's going on. And it's basically like a jumble sale for 12-year-olds, where they sell things like pens and pencils for about £8.50. But because it's
Mm.
squiggle brand and, bags and bottles and pencil
Oh,
cases
okay.
and it is just like, it's like frenzied 12-year-olds who are living out their best lives and spending their parents' money on
Bless them.
tat, for what I can
Bless
see.
them. I mean, I go to the pound shop and just buy stuff there, but each to their
No, no,
own,
no,
I
no,
guess.
no, no, no. That one, that will not do in terms of the scratch the itch that must be scratched by
Mm,
the twiggle squiggle. Yeah. So
wiggle,
there you go.
yeah.
That's my life. My life, I will be
Yeah,
like a squiggle. What's the widower? What's a like a empty nester
yeah,
squiggler? I don't
yeah.
know what I'll be.
Squiggler, yeah.
Yeah. On
Squiggles.
second
We're going to
thoughts,
call you Squiggles from now on then.
yeah,
Squiggles.
Squiggle. On second thoughts, don't just on your own go and stand outside of Squiggle. That might be a bad look. How that's
Yeah,
like
no, probably not a good idea.
not a good
Um,
idea.
However, in other news today, we had our first driving lesson
Oh, for the boy.
of the boy. I mean,
Oh,
it doesn't seem like 7 years ago that he was seven.
oh,
Well, he wasn't because he was four. That would make him 14. However, he's 18 in the next month. Next month, he's 18. How did that happen? I don't know, but it
oh.
happens, doesn't it? But yeah, so it was an interesting morning because, you talk about your 12-year-old chatting. I had to take him into town because here it works slightly differently. I don't know how it works in the UK now, but I know when I had my driving lessons, they used to come and get you from the house. They used to come and pick you up and they
Hmm.
take you and blah blah blah. Not here. No, no, you have to go in and meet them centrally, so they pick you up from somewhere. So anyway, I took him into town, and did he did he one straw breath? I'm not sure he did, and it was anxiety, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, yeah.
He was anxious, he was excited, and bearing in mind he could have started driving August when he turned 17, but he chose not to. He chose to focus on his exams and stuff like that. So yeah, so
It's
today
very
was his first.
sensible.
I think so as well.
Very
And
sensible.
he's not going to need a car because he's going to be at uni, but at least he'll have his driving license. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, there's a bit of serendipity because what's the
yeah.
face?
What's
Number
the face?
number five child, what's she called?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
the bless her heart. She passed a test this weekend,
I
which is
saw.
just what
Yeah.
I find really odd, and this is maybe an adoption phenomena, is that I look at there's things that my children had that just weren't accessible to me at their age,
Mm,
and she, Rosa, and a big sister, they have just got hand to eye coordination, and since the moment they could walk, their hand to eye coordination has been just spot on. It's just a
mm,
gift. It's just genetically, biologically. And so driving to them is just, they took to it like within an hour, they can
mm.
drive.
Yeah.
So just amazing, just
Mm.
terrifying. It took me ages
It
to
is
get
terrifying.
all that stuff. So yeah, so that's quite a moment for us as well. Because like you, I remember I can remember her as a baby. That just
Mm.
freaks me out.
Yeah,
I'm
it
so
does, doesn't it?
old.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bless her. There's loads we could talk about, and I think the elephant in the room, other than you told me I wasn't to mention your holidays, so I'm not going to. Um,
You're evil.
well, I didn't mention it, but I think
You're
we should we should lay it all at Triss's door.
evil. Well, of course. I don't do
Yeah,
it. God, if
no,
I was to do it, you would never go anywhere.
you're a good, obedient husband, aren't you? You do as
I
you're
just
told.
show up. I just show up with a suitcase and off I go.
You just,
But it's funny though you say that, and I know you probably want to go on to the next topic there, but I have come to the conclusion over the last couple of weeks that I have, over the last few years, become this home bird that doesn't like to do things, which I know there's a certain amount of irony in that statement,
Well, I was going to say
but
your social media content would
yeah.
perhaps argue the toss against that, but it's
It's funny. It's a funny one because what you see isn't always the way it is. And somebody actually said to me, "Oh, you have a lot of friends. You have a great social life." And I was like, "Not really."
yeah,
And
I see
but
that.
I kind of we were chatting about it on Friday because as you know, we've all of a sudden become gone from a team of two to a team of seven at work. It's just still blowing my head. But anyway, so on Friday afternoon, we the team that were there, we said, should we just go and have a swift half somewhere, just to
Yeah.
Friday afternoon, nothing major. And it was at that point I realized actually I've become this kind of home bird for the
Hmm.
majority of the time. So I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to stay at home. And it's only happened for the last couple of years. I don't know if it's because of COVID and then the subsequent stuff that happened after COVID with me, but
Yeah.
certainly, yeah, it was just a bit of a revelation. So, what you see isn't always the way it is.
Well, I mean, I did see your social media, and you were like, "Oh, look at our new friends," and I thought, Scott's not like that. Scott doesn't make new friends.
Scott doesn't like people.
I looked at them and I thought, they're not the type of people Scott would hang out with. That's all Tris. That's Scott's reluctantly gone. No,
Yeah.
that's not
Oh
true. I
God.
don't want to, in case they listen, I don't want to be disparaging.
Yeah, I
Scott's a
know.
lovely
Yeah,
man. He
they
loves you
won't
all.
listen.
Yeah.
They won't listen. No.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Yeah,
No.
distracted
I
there.
was going to say about the sort of the elephant in the room is that we're recording this on Monday, the 1st of July, and by the time this comes out on the whatever the 5th, 6th, um,
6. Yeah.
6th, yeah, I would imagine that we'll have a new government. So I don't think,
Mm.
to be honest, I've lost the will to go on with this election shenanigans. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, probably more for you than it is for me because obviously I'm
I would
watching from a
say,
distance. And if I had wanted to, I could have still voted. But we chose not to because I don't think that's fair because we don't live there. But it's been an interesting few weeks with all the
oh,
mudslinging and oh God. I
it,
mean, it's
yeah,
it's it's like for the most part, it's been almost child like playground behavior in a lot of ways.
no.
And then you had some lunatic bungee jumping this morning, and I just think, what is that how we're we're
It's like
we're canvassing these days by throwing ourselves off a crane?
it's a knockout meets elections.
And I mean, I get it's alternative. Let's be honest. It's a different way to get a vote. But
Yeah,
yeah, I just think a lot of the oh God. And then
but
I saw tonight that
yeah,
they were saying if Keir Starmer does become the prime minister, he could be the least liked prime minister since
since the
whoever.
last one.
Yeah. Mm. But aren't they always not liked at
Yeah,
some point in their career? So, yeah,
yeah.
it's been interesting. So I don't envy you guys having to work through it, and I know we're going to be working through something similar either later this year, early next year. But yeah, just
But I, I I think it's odd because we inhabit this world, like you do in Ireland, and we hear, but the implications of government sort of seem to reach into much more than just our pockets, that it's into our
mm,
children's welfare and,
yeah,
and more than just schools. So I'm not trying to separate us from not from other families, but I think
no,
that, when it feels like your life is so interwoven with services, CAMs or SIPs, with education, with additional support, healthcare, and which is all sort of part of this world, adoption, fostering, kinship. It feels like the stakes are really high, but it just feels like a total absence of any meaningful discussion in
mm,
in the broader debate, which is a bit of which is a
yeah.
massive shame because that's the stuff that really interests me. But huh,
Yeah, I think
well,
that the only thing that's really of any interest to anybody at the minute is the cost of living, and the kind
yeah,
of all the stuff that's been affecting everybody the last couple of years. And I think in terms of specifics, yes, I know that there's some things that have come up, like the Lib Dems have mentioned kinship and what have you, and that's lovely. I've seen some of the kind of canvassing that Adoption UK are doing. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago, didn't we, in
oh
terms of
yes,
asks and what have you, and I mean. Eh, eh, I'm just a bit meh about it. And the funniest thing is
yeah.
that we're in the process of putting together our ask for the elections here, which will either be autumn or spring. So we're in the process of kind of bringing all that together in terms of the lay of the land with FASD, and we know that we're not going to have that specifically mentioned in any manifesto. But if we can get it included in a kind of in a way that it's affects, I don't know, even just neurodiversity, we'll be happy. And that's not saying that we're not aspiring to have it. It's
Yeah.
just we know that it's not a priority for a lot of people. It's a priority for the 250,000 people that might be living with it in Ireland, but it's not a priority to the 5.8 million that live in the whole country.
Yeah. But when you say is that percentage of population quickly doing his maths, so what's that, 5%?
Yeah, it's around 5%. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's so well, that's a meaningful number of people.
It is, but it's still not a recognized condition. It's not a recognized disability. It's not,
Yeah.
we just
Well,
had this fight this week to get so for Jacobs University, because of his diagnosis, he gets I won't go into the flipping ins and outs of it, but basically he gets points towards university place because of his condition,
yeah.
which we applied for in March, and we got a letter this week saying that they were declining the application because we didn't have a a clinical neurologist's opinion on where he was at. Well, he doesn't have a neurologist. That's why, because it's
Yeah.
FASD. It's not like a brain injury. It's
Yeah.
it's a lifelong thing, and it's stuff like that. That's important to us, but actually, who else is it important to? And yes, there's a lot of people, but it's same the world over. How many of them are actually going to university? There's no data on that. We don't know. But then we have no data on how many people have actually ever been diagnosed with FASD in this country, because there's no such thing. So
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, we're sort of a bit ahead in the UK, but I know
Mm.
recently someone came to me and well, actually, so I think I was saying I was doing some work with around talking to groups to communities about adverse childhood experience and the impact and kind of just like really interesting stuff. And someone came up to me and absolutely just totally honest and said, look, and sort of shared a little bit about their story about them drinking during pregnancy and them,
Right.
which first of all, you go absolute, the place of sort of to be able to get to that place in your own head and acknowledge that you drank through pregnancy and that's impacted on your children. She's got,
Mm.
this person had a couple of children.
Yeah.
And them saying, I've read all the books and I know what I did,
Yeah.
but I have no idea how to even get a diagnosis. And you
Yeah.
kind of you think this is life-altering stuff, and this
Mm.
is someone who can just give as good as evidence as you can of
Yeah.
of that, but they're still, because of their economic circumstances, their geographical location, and
Yeah.
probably the access to services, they're just not going to get a diagnosis. So
Mm.
this child will always be labeled as a child with, or just maybe ADHD or
Yeah.
autism or both or neither.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
it's just pants, isn't it?
A minefield, honestly. It really is.
But that's then frustrating because of then you think you were talking about the numbers there about children with FASD in Ireland, or the kind of the best guess.
Mm.
And well, I was just thinking, well, in the UK we've got something like 1.4 million children with special educational needs.
Hmm.
That's a lot of kids. That's a
It's
lot
a
of children.
massive amount of kids. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that, well, like yours, it doesn't just ripple into, it's not just one child in isolation. It's one child, it's two parents. It's
Yeah.
eight. Hang on, let me do my maths. How many
Hmm.
grandparents?
Do you want a
Um,
calculator?
you might need to draw me a picture. No, don't draw me a picture. Um, four grandparents. So actually, for one child, you may then see there could be five adults, six adults around that child, and so actually, it is an issue for a lot of. It's a significant issue for so many people. I mean, there's
Yeah.
14, I think about 14 million children in the UK, so 10% have got SEN. And you kind of go, this is an issue for schools. Schools are underfunded. And so you kind of go,
Yeah.
why isn't this an issue that's way up the agenda? And I think the Lib Dems have only, as much as they're for their japes and tomfoolery, they're the
Mm.
only ones that sort of
Yeah.
even tried to raise this in terms of.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, so on that
But
note, just sorry,
just
sorry.
before we leave that, so just to
Oh,
say that
oh, oh,
the estimate for Ireland is up to 7.4% potentially are living with FASD. That was a JAMA Pediatrics prevalence kind of thing that was done a couple of years
study.
ago.
Mm.
So, but we don't know. We don't know the exact number, and we'll never know the exact number. And the reason we'll never know
Yeah.
that is because, there's people who are living away with it that, because it is a spectrum. It
Sort
might
of
not be affecting them.
functioning.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or it is
absolutely.
functioning, or it's affecting them to a limited
Yeah,
amount. So
exactly.
I years and years ago, the thing that really stuck in my head with is it Dr. Raj Mukherjee pronounced that's a proper
Mukherjee.
words. Mukherjee, sorry. Which is really odd. This is when I left work and I was trawling around for training and I was totally unemployed. I got invited to some training that he was doing, and he was doing it
Yeah.
in a convent in rural Durham. It's really odd. It was really odd, kind of. Oh, I'm in a convent.
Mm,
And he said, if it knocks 5% off your IQ, and you were going to be 105 and you're 100, you're still 100.
yeah.
He
Yeah.
said, so it's
Exactly.
all that nuance is totally really difficult to capture, isn't it?
Of course it is.
I wasn't going to move off politics particularly. I was just going to point people towards the manifesto that Foster Wiki put out there. And I don't propose we go through it in any great detail, but it stands quite differently to the other manifestos that we talked about.
No, not Foster Wiki being
Uh,
different, surely.
be careful what you say, because I do know that the Foster Wiki team listen avidly.
I know they do, but I mean that in a lovely way because they're like the disruptors, aren't they? They're the ones that are, So I mean it
Yeah.
in a lovely way, not in a
Oh,
negative way. See, you pick me up all wrong. Honestly, listener, dear listener,
dear listener, dear
private
heart.
and we've lasted this long.
Yeah, I do like it because I think it does it speaks quite plainly about the
Mm,
issues that are present. And yeah, that's one of the benefits of not necessarily being in the in crowd, isn't it?
yeah,
You can, like
absolutely.
us,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
not in the in crowd.
No, absolutely not. Not anymore. We maybe used to be.
No, no, not
It's like
after
that
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 episode.
saying, you'd rather be in on the what's it, outside of the tent rather than inside of the tent. Because I think
What are
Foster
you
Wiki
saying,
are
Scott?
kind of more inside of the tent with people kind of doing stuff from the outside.
That that
Anyway,
was
yeah,
coherent. That was
yeah, all right.
that was
Well,
podcast gold.
I just wanted to use the P word for the
Well,
wee
go for
wees.
it.
No, because then you have to put an E on, and then it just gets
Yeah.
all complicated, doesn't it?
Well, no, it's very easy actually. I just
Oh, is
literally
it?
tick a button that says E for explicit, and Apple
Oh,
don't
really?
get huffed with you. Because if you do
Oh,
have
okay.
lots of rude words, then Apple can get a bit shirty with you
Mm.
if you're not playing nicely. Um, I would recommend people go to that. And just for clarification, there is no beef between Foster Wiki and Fostering Network. That is total fabrication on my part.
Oh, did someone report you? Did you nearly have your registration taken off you
Again.
again?
Um, no, it's just I am conscious that you can sort of, if you say things enough, people start to believe it.
That's true. That is very true. No, I'll
Um,
tell you what was great though. I saw Sarah and somebody else from Foster Wiki on another podcast, which was really good. It was a social, I think it was a social work podcast, and they actually got to sit in the same room on sofas.
oh,
Did you see it?
I
Did you not
do.
see it?
I saw a bit of
Yeah,
it.
I saw
Yeah.
the clips. Yeah, I was quite jealous because here's us. I'm sitting in the kitchen with the washing machine going in the background. You're sat in your man cave, which is freezing in the winter, boiling in the summer. Although
Hmm.
you still have a jumper on, which is beyond me, but there you go. Mind you, you live in the north of England, so it could be chilly there. I don't know. But they were in a lovely podcast studio with sofas and nice microphones and the whole jing bang. And
Yeah.
here's us scraping together to get a microphone or a pair of headphones or.
Well, if I do move house, if we manage to find, I plan on building a podcast booth, den,
Booth.
cave,
Yeah.
a booth
So
of
it sounds
truth.
like we're in the same room. If we actually do the same and decorate them, and then we can have cameras set up, and then it will just look like we're in the same building.
Let's do that. Let's do that.
Let's do
It's
that. Yeah.
excellent.
Anyway, sorry.
No, don't be sorry. There was a news item, or there was an interesting blog that came from a law firm. I don't know whether you read that, Scott, and I shall tell
Right.
you what it was about. It was from Emily Boardman, who is the
Oh, I
founding
know
partner.
Emily so well. She listens to this podcast. What are you on about? She used to be a trustee at Adoption UK. She's my Bessie.
Shut up.
Yeah, me and her have share the same birthday.
Really?
Hmm.
Oh, well, you know
Yeah.
everyone, don't you?
I know. I haven't read it yet. I did see it today, actually. That was the first time I've seen it. But anyway, go on. Crack on now.
So it's about the revocation of an adoption order, and it's linked specifically to a case where where she represented an applicant, an adoptive mother who sought to revoke adoption orders made many years ago in relation to two children now known as X and Y. And the
Hmm.
case was heard by Mrs. Justice Leven, I pronounced that probably badly wrong, in the High Court. And the judgment found out. I'll put a link to it. But the long and short of it is that during lockdown, the adoptive mother had allowed the birth mother to move in with her and the children to escape an abusive relationship. When she left, the children followed. One of the children has always been clear that she wanted to be unadopted, but the other was less certain. By the time of the hearing, both children, the birth mother, supported the application to revoke. So the long and short of it is, you can read the details down there, is that the birth mother, the adoptive mother, the two children all went to the judge and said, we want to kind of dissolve this.
Hmm.
And the judge said, no.
Wow. Okay. Wowzers.
Well, and that is the crux of the issue. Do you think, yeah. I mean, do you think that we should, what do you think the judge should do? I have my opinions.
I don't know, but I just messaged Emily asking her if she wants to come on and discuss it. Um,
Well, she's welcome
mm,
on. She's very
it's an
welcome to
interesting
come
one, isn't it? Because, well, I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of it, as in how much of a maybe an assessment or whatever was done.
on.
But I mean, blimey. Oh God, that's a really tricky one, isn't it? Because there's a side of me that says, well, actually, do you know what? If everybody's asking for it and she's in a position to be able to parent, then what's the harm?
Well,
Assign a
yeah.
social worker while the transition's happening, make sure everything's all right. I don't know. Yes, it's new. It's probably something that's not been that widely explored in the past, I guess. But you know,
It's,
mm,
well,
wow.
it's a bit of a quandary, isn't it? Because I think, like you, I think, well, if everyone's in agreement, then why would the state not just say, yeah, fine, just set the counter to zero?
Mm,
I mean, how would you feel? So hypothetically, how would you feel if one
mm,
of your children came to you as a young adult and said, "Look, um, well, I guess there's lots of ways they could come to you very angry and say, I hate your guts. I want
yeah,
nothing to do with you."
yeah.
That's one option. And then there's the other option is they go, look, just for my sense of identity, sense of who I am, I want to kind of revert to my original legal identity, but that doesn't
Mm,
change how I feel about you. You're still my dad.
mm.
How would you feel?
Um, yeah. I'm I'm confident enough to say that actually I just want my children to be happy, whatever form that takes, and that is a genuine statement. Um,
I believe
I
you. I'm
think
not.
that the
And I can
I
understand
think
why people might not
yeah, yeah.
believe that, but
Well, you've met them, that's fine.
having no, having met you, I've met them. They're lovely kids. Having met you, I totally believe that.
But I think of course you can't deny there would be some element of being feeling a bit gutted or a bit gutted or massively gutted. I'm not sure because I think until it happened you wouldn't be able to say how you felt about it, would you?
Well, we're only
Um,
human, aren't we?
well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, everybody's got feelings, and if you've spent a good 15, 20 years um, helping them through all they've been through, getting them through school, all that sort of stuff, helping them to become independent and all that sort of stuff. I think that would be. I don't want to use the word hurtful, but I think it would be.
It would hurt.
Yeah, it would hurt. Yeah, I think it
But
would.
not, as you say, it's not an act to be hurt. It's not an
No,
act to
absolutely
hurt
not.
you,
No,
but you would
no.
be hurt.
Yeah, and I think that it
Hmm.
kind of, and I know it's not quite the same as what we're talking about, but I always remember that kind of question. Well, how would you feel if they turned around to you and said, "You're not my dad," or started calling you by your name, you know? And to begin with, I was like, "Oh, well, I don't know," because they would be my children, and I would have been the savior, and blah blah blah, all that sort of stuff, all those things that you do think about when you're
Yeah,
very early days. And it didn't take me long to realize that actually that was about me, not about them. If they want to call
yeah.
me Scott, that's fine. It's absolutely fine. I have no issue with that. They've also got other names, so I'm happy
Have
with that.
they other
Yeah, they
names?
have.
Yeah.
If you want to turn this into an explicit podcast, I can share them all. Um, but I think that, we've never had that "you're not my dad" thing or anything like that. And, I think I'm prepared for it if it ever happened. If anything, we've had quite the opposite. And I think
What
if
with
I'm
you
thinking,
shouting, "You're not my child," and them going, "Sure, you are."
no, I would never say that because they are my children. They always will be. But it's a funny one because I think that, we all have a different experience. And I think that, if that's always been something that's been discussed or in the open, or it's difficult to say because I think every family is different regardless of how you become a family. And let's be honest,
Tricky.
there's there's people who have kind of divorced their biological parents.
Oh, yeah,
There's
Macaulay
all those
Culkin,
sorts.
wasn't it?
Yeah. Wow, I think so. Yeah, what's it? I can't remember. But yeah, that's an interesting thing.
It's
Very
an interesting
interesting.
sort of thought experiment, isn't it? Because I think that maybe like you said, the if you said the first 5 years after when we were first 5 years of being into it, I don't think I would have I don't think I would have coped very well. I'd have really had to dance around that. But I think at this point, I'm not sure it changes. What would it change? Because
Mm,
actually the relationship stands on its merits. Not it's not a relationship. It's not, sometimes when you see the worst kind of arguments on Twitter, it's about, oh, you children are kidnapped, and it's
yeah.
or state kidnapping. I mean, one of my children, who shall remain nameless, um, to protect the innocent, um, came to me when they were 15, and it wasn't an angry conversation, just a general. I can't remember how we got to it, but she said, I think I would like to go back, revert to my original surname.
Mm,
Um, and I thought, well, why not?
mm,
But there was no sense of revocation of adoption order. It was just, I'm going to just pick up that name. And as it turns out,
yeah.
she didn't.
Mm,
Um, but some of that teenage stuff is about exploring. And you've
yeah.
got to let your kids explore, haven't you? You've got to let them work out
Absolutely.
like
And
you did and I didn't. Yeah.
yeah, and let's be honest, for some, you know, this one of these children never wanted to be adopted and was always against it. So, actually, was it not?
Yeah.
It was the adoptive parent, and I'm using this to define roles here, was it not right that the adoptive parent did that and just agreed, well, didn't just agree with it, but thought, well, you know, actually she's never been happy being adopted, and it may be 100 times
Yeah.
better for her kind of going back to,
I,
I
I
don't know.
suppose there's specific circumstances, aren't they? But maybe
Yes.
to make it more tangible, because there is, with them still being children, that makes it quite different. But
Mm,
do you think there'd ever be a place for saying to all adopted adult adoptees, um, that post 18, then you have the right to revoke the adoption order, and just make it a really fairly bureaucratic, simple,
mm.
straightforward process, as opposed to having to petition a judge?
Yeah, I think quite likely. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
It would
why
make
not?
parents raise their game, wouldn't
Well,
it?
well, but for some it's about identity, isn't it? It's more about the
Yeah,
identity than who brought them up or who gave birth. Or I'm that's not a generalization. I'm saying for some, before you all start writing in with your complaints. Um, but I think when it comes to identity, if you have a firm identity that actually, this is not who I am, but that was who I am and still
yeah,
am, then actually, why not? Why shouldn't that be available as an option? Um,
yeah.
and but there's some that well, there's some that wouldn't be arsed, to be honest with you. There's some that just crack on and just get through their life, and then for some it's a really big issue. Um, However, it's not going to bring back their NHS records or their NHS number,
Yeah,
all those
yeah,
kinds of things that are revoked on signing that adoption order, and also their experience and their trauma. you know, um, the trauma of whatever it was that they went through when they were a young child or whatever, that being in foster care and the care system and being poked and prodded and then being placed with a family full of strangers and expected to just call them mummy and daddy or daddy and daddy or mummy and mummy straight away. All that sort of stuff. That you can't take any of that away, can you?
no,
Um, so I guess I mean, the thing is, we've always in the past, it's always been focused in on the adoptive parents and potentially the biological parents to a point. What about the child?
Yeah.
The child is never really well, yes, they are a priority, but not to the same extent that actually they should be in these circumstances. They don't get a say in what happens to them. Yes,
No.
they're allowed to air what they feel and think, but they're not allowed to say. Somebody tells them they're going to be put into either long-term fostering, or they're going to be returned back to their biological parents, or they're going to be adopted or whatever. A child generally doesn't have the final say on their situation. So why should they not be able to grow up and have the final say on
Mm.
that?
Yeah, I mean, listening to lots of different people, lots of adult adoptees with the range, like you said, there's a whole range of experience. So
Mm,
they're not this amorphous blob of people who all have the same view. But what I kind of often think is that adoptions meets the needs of children, but it doesn't meet the needs of them when they become adults necessarily.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so
absolutely.
if we want, the 6-year-old wants to belong and they belong to the people that they live with.
Mm,
But at 16 or 26 or 36 or 56 or 66 or 76, they go,
yeah,
actually, that to reconcile all of this, this is what I want, then shouldn't we just say, fine? And
yeah,
the only thing I thought was that you would sort of, as young adults, maybe you'd want to put a sort of a process in there that keeps them safe in terms of them
yeah.
having a, but that, but that lots of things have processes, in terms of supporting them in a way that's healthy and appropriate to just make sure that they're not sort of undoing something that in 5 years' time they want to redo.
Mm. But
Um,
then it's no different to, it's only recently we're starting to see this change in terms of adopted adults or adult adoptees being able to access services without that fit them rather than what fits in terms of Ofsted and all that sort of stuff.
hmm,
Um, and that's been a long fight for them to get to that. It's right for them, and that I'm not saying that somebody should talk them out of it, but just to kind of check the underlying reason, cause. At the end of the day, there may be elements of abuse or neglect within the adoptive family that
yeah,
having an
absolutely.
impact that nobody knew about because actually, it was a case of, well, I've lost one family, I don't want to lose another one, but yeah, they beat the crap out of me when I was however old, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think that's a bit different. And I think that, I'm not, like I say, I'm not saying anybody should try and talk them out of it. I'm just saying that, you do need to kind of just make sure that it's for reasons that are reasonable. But the person who has been adopted should have the final say at the end of the day,
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And that's not me putting an obstacle in the way of them being able to, but anybody can
yeah,
change their name by deed poll if they wanted to, at the end of the day, you can do that. But I think if you want to
yeah.
have that sense of belonging back to where is it your biology and your identity and stuff like that, then that should be their choice.
Yeah, it's kind of controversial. Well, is it controversial? I don't know.
No, I don't think it's controversial.
Doesn't feel it.
I just think the process might be a little bit controversial in some terms of some people might
Yeah,
agree with it, some people might not, and some people might, want more layers of kind of, yet again, assessments and blah, blah, blah. But actually, I don't think
yeah,
it needs all that. I think it just needs somebody to check in, even if it's a social worker or someone from, a post-adoption team, just sitting down with them for an hour and just making sure that it's for the reasons that, are outlined and what have you. And then
yeah, yeah.
no,
No,
no
that
different to
feels.
if you went for an adoption order, the social worker would submit a report saying why this was a suitable match and why the child should be adopted by them, if you're
And
going
so
to revocate, it should be similar, not the same, not similar, but it should be kind of along those lines of,
I have a bit of heft to it. So it's not. You
yeah,
can't be like, yeah, you're not buying a license for a
yeah,
TV.
absolutely, yeah,
So
yeah,
it's not just a bureaucratic stamp. Well, it has really made me think. But I just thought that, but again, the community of adoption agencies, the RAs, the Adoption England, all of those people, are they going to want to have that conversation? Because we say
well,
that adoption is forever.
yeah, I know.
Is that going to
But is it these
further
days?
reduce
Is
the
it? Is
pool?
it these days? Are we not looking outside of the box in terms of how it looks and how it feels? And, we're talking about birth parent involvement and, I want to say birth parent involvement, and I mean contact in that respect, what we
Yeah,
call contact. We're now moving down that route. as well, and people are, social workers a lot more, teams are, is it that much of a thing just to add that into the mix to see what it looks like? And, I mean, I
Oh,
guess because an adoption order is granted in a court, it can only be revoked in a court, but it should be, it's a little bit like a decree nisi, from what I gather. Never had one. Hopefully never will. But, that's kind of just a stamp, isn't it?
yeah.
You submit your paperwork, and unless there's been a murder or something like that, I'm assuming that, people don't have to actually physically sit in the court to get it. So, it should just be an application to say, I want to revoke this, and here's the report that says, I'm of sound mind and blah, blah, blah. And then a judge goes, yep, that's fine. Yep, that's fine. Yep, that's fine. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really interesting question, and I think yeah, yeah, I would imagine as the adult adoptee community would probably have very strong feelings on that, and
Yeah.
yeah, and but I guess the my final thought is that I would hate to think that my children felt legally tied to me in a way that
Yeah.
that felt detrimental to their well-being.
Mm. And also, you don't
Um,
want them thinking that they're not wanted, and that's fine. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Off you go. Yeah,
yeah,
you're
crack on.
fine. Yeah, you've cost me enough money now. All that sort of stuff. You don't want them thinking that either. But I think it's, if it's something that need, that somebody wants, I'm sure at that stage you can sit down and discuss it. I would hope. I like to
Yeah,
think that, well, actually, Jacob said it this week. He said, "You are the most open parents that I know." Like, I see other people's parents, and I'm like, oh, oh, I couldn't live in this house, kind of thing. And
yeah,
because we are very open and we talk about things, but there's not every family is like that, and being
yeah.
able to openly discuss issues that they're having, or how people are feeling, or I'm forever having that conversation with the boys, and it's not that I'm pushing them back to get in contact with their birth parents, but I say to them, I say, don't miss the opportunity, because you don't know what's going to happen in life. If
No,
you have a need to get in contact with them, then, and if you want my help, fine. If you don't, that's even, that's fine as well. But don't miss out on opportunities that people have missed out because you're scared of what I'm going to think.
yeah.
Because actually, I support you. I'll support you to do it. You know.
Because you'd hate to think that, say the opportunity to revoke the order was there and sort of reignite the original identity that they only way they could do that was to feel they'd have to wait till you passed away, and they were doing it
Absolutely. Yeah.
in their 50s,
Yeah.
60s, 70s, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And then they have to come to terms with the trauma of having to live through all those feelings that they've had. It's a little bit like, I don't know, coming out as gay in your 50s when you've known you've
Yeah.
been gay since you were 18, and you've gotten married, you've had two kids or whatever, and blah blah blah. And then when you were 50, you went, right, I've had enough of this now, and I need to do it. I know it's not the same situation, but it's
But
all that trauma, all that pain that you go through. It's just, it's
I
not
don't
worth
think
it.
it's that far away, is it? Because it's of a sense of who you are, who you feel you are, who you are. You're living a version of yourself, which is a shadow of what you
Yeah.
think you are. And I think that, so I think it's a really helpful comparison, isn't it? Because that sense of this isn't who I am, but I'm
Mm.
playing this role
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
not to offend or upset my parents out of, or even out of loyalty. It's not necessarily
Yeah.
upsetting, but I know I often see that in my children. I think there's nothing I can say because you are inherently a loyal person,
Yeah.
and there's nothing I can say to convince you. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's just, the idea that adoption is complicated when children are little is not
And
true. It
yeah,
remains
no,
complicated.
it does. And don't get me wrong, we don't sit and talk about it every day at tea time. It's like when conversations come up,
Yeah.
we sat watching the end of Lost Boys and Fairies the other week, and Jacob joined us for that. He had to hug us actually because we were both in bits.
Yeah,
God.
you had to bring your tissues.
Oh, he did. He absolutely did. And but that opened a discussion. So when discussions are opened up like that, you can't, I just don't want anybody in my family feeling
Yeah.
that they have to please me, because you know they if it's going to help them, then that's all I want. you know
So, final part of your review then of Lost Boys and
oh,
Fairies and Lost Boys. Yeah.
Jesus, I don't say that, not taking the Lord's name in vain, but oh my days, that was hard to watch, that was really hard to watch.
It's
um
really good though.
I mean, we were both in absolute floods because you didn't. I mean, I guessed that he would end up being placed with them, but um, it was just the uncertainty of them, of that little boy having gone through all of that, and then, all of a sudden it been ripped away from him. And, oh, God. I want to watch it again. And in fact, we talked about it at work because, obviously there's um, an LGBT majority at work these days.
Tell you.
So, I'll put the willies up here. And
Really? Is that the phrase you're going to say? See, we had to go to the explicit anyway, didn't we?
yeah, well, we did, yeah. But no, it was interesting talking about it with the guys because, I'm not saying they've not got any interest in being parents, but certainly it's not something that's come up for them so far. Um, and yeah, it was. I think it doesn't matter whether you're LGBT or straight or
Hmm.
non-binary or whatever. I think the storyline would be the same, whatever kind of sexuality you were, if
Yeah.
that had happened to you. Um, and it could
Yeah.
be quite true to life actually. So yeah,
No, I I
fascinating
really,
program.
really liked it. It's
Yeah,
sort of hung over me because it just felt like a very grown-up story. And I've seen
yeah,
lots of things about adoption are good,
yeah.
but that felt like it was really scratching at something that's
Hmm.
probably at the heart of a lot of us, in terms of our
Absolutely.
own
Yeah,
childhood and
yeah.
our own sense of inadequacy. It
Hmm.
can often be a bit glib. It can be a bit sitcom, a bit like, "Oh, I don't feel good enough. Oh, you are good enough. Oh, thank heavens you've told me."
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
and it wasn't
Although
that.
I,
So,
I do have to correct a record though, because on the podcast that we did with Donal, we were talking about it, weren't we? And I
mhm.
said about the social worker, and I got the wrong social worker because I was thinking of another program.
Right.
And I said, well, I didn't really feel, but actually, the character of the social worker I think, was played very well, very, very well, actually, in it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
there's nothing about it that I would complain about. Anything that I would complain about would just be nitpicking. And so
yes,
I'm not,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. But, that doesn't get people to watch it, does it? If you're gonna, you have
no,
to create a little bit of drama and something like
no.
that. So,
But
yeah.
I have emailed the BBC and asked if he's
Mm,
available for an interview. So
hmm
that we'll see
Be
whether
great
that
if he
comes on.
was. Ooh, that would be
Oh,
lovely.
tell
That
you,
would be amazing. Yeah.
boost the ratings, wouldn't it? We'd get maybe 3 or 4 people listening.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd be on
Um,
BBC Sounds.
BBC Sounds. Oh, the giddy heights. Um, I am coming towards the end because I actually
Hmm
it's my one of
Have
my
you got any
child's
news, Al? Any news? Any news you want to
something
share?
happening. Well, actually, yes, I have been awarded a Churchill Fellowship. There you go.
Yeah, that's
So,
great. So expand, explain,
right. So the
because
Churchill.
I wasn't
So,
aware of what this was until you told me a couple of weeks ago.
right.
You've only announced it today, just to be clear.
Yeah, yeah. There
But
was an
I did
embargo on the
know.
news.
I
Oh,
did
well, they
know.
said I was allowed to tell people,
Yes.
um,
I
acquaintances,
see
and
Lucy Peake got one as well. Lucy Peake from King got one as well.
well, yes, because I met Lucy Peake in the interview, and anyway, and yes, that is really good. And Lucy's plan is really fantastic. So the idea is that um, when Churchill was like kind of come towards the end of his life, there lots of people around him said, "What do you want us to do? Build a statue or anything?" And he went, "No, no, no. Go out and send people out to get to kind of talk to the experts and the in terms of society, culture, environment, health, children. Go and speak to the leaders of the world and bring the knowledge back." And so they set up this the fellowship, which is the Churchill Fellowship, and they've kind of
Mm.
they've danced around some of Churchill's complicated stuff, and they've kind of made statements about that. So they kind of, but that's their aim, is that they send UK citizens out to the world to talk to leaders and bring back the brightest thoughts. So I thought, well, actually, the issue for me is that how are other countries managing children with complex,
Mm.
challenging, and violent behavior?
Mhm.
Because it seems like in the UK we feel like we're constantly playing catch up, and just so I proposed to them that I would go out into the world and find out. And
Mm.
Churchill is got quite deep pockets, and they send people around the world, like physically send people, for quite extended periods of time. But I opted not to do that because I
You can
thought I
do
could.
more sitting in your man cave, can't you?
I'm much happier in my man cave, but also I
Yeah.
thought actually the nature of this world is that actually a lot of people are really isolated. So there's very few places you can go where there's a group of people who are dealing with this, like
Mm.
physically in a building.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I could have identified 3 or 4 or 5 different spots across like North America and Canada and
Mm.
USA, I would have gone. but I just couldn't. And I just thought it doesn't feel very ethical. So my plan is to do that and to kind of go and speak to leaders. But also the fact it's online means I can just go so much further and I'll just go
Yeah.
wherever the trail leads me. So if people know of anyone in different countries who are supported or professionals or organizations, then please get in touch and let me know. And then I thought to, and as well, they said, oh, you have to write a report because that's part of the deal. And I said, well, why don't I just do it as a podcast? Why don't I just put like a little podcast series out, maybe 3 episodes, and do a brief report? And they said, yeah, that sounds freaking awesome. And they're really great fun. So actually, I'm going down on the 3rd of July and we're having canapes and we're all introducing one another and talking
Oh,
about our incredible
fabulous.
project. So I'll see Lucy again, which would be
Oh,
wonderful.
lovely. Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so it's a bit
Damn. You
scary.
could have just sent me. I'd asked the questions. I could have gone.
You could have gone, yeah, you could do it. You still got your British passport, haven't you? You could still do it. So
Strangely
that's,
enough, yes, I do.
you have to it. Well, yeah. And so it is quite exciting, actually. It feels
It is
like,
very exciting.
it feels really interesting because actually the language we use around challenging violent behavior and
Mm,
actually if you look in the UK, there's lots of it is hidden.
mhm.
So actually it's quite hard to find it in places
Yeah.
because no one wants to talk about it. But I've got a few
Mhm.
links into actually through the podcast, which is really good, through into North America, into Canada.
Does that mean we get commission for this? What's happening? Do we
Absolutely.
get
Well,
do we get
Scott,
a
they
little
are
side payment?
well, they're paying me to do it. So that they
Yeah,
literally
no,
give it
that's
I get
which
a
is bonkers,
stipend.
really, when you think about it. And I don't mean that
No,
in an
no, I
insulting
know what you
way. I
mean.
just mean like, you spend your life talking to people online, and they're
Well,
actually paying you for it. But I guess they've got to kind of, it's not just a case of people talking to people online. I mean, this is proper work, isn't it?
yeah, but before I got it, it's like I did in the interview and I'd kind of thought through the plan. I thought I'd really sort of thought through what I'd like to do. And I thought, if I
Mm.
don't get it, I'll just do it anyway. I just
Yeah,
shouldn't say that
yeah.
out loud.
No, you shouldn't. Yeah, especially before
But
you get the money.
yeah, yeah, before the cash is in the bank. But I thought, well, I am going to do it anyway because actually it just feels like a really worthwhile project to kind of go
Mm,
out there and sort of soak up what are people doing? What does
yeah.
good practice look like in
Mhm,
New Zealand, Australia,
mm,
South America, France, Italy, Germany? Um, so yeah, really exciting. And I am really looking forward to that. And it's really I've had a few experiences recently. We're on the long grass, aren't we? And it's getting late, so I won't stay too long. But there's been a few times recently where I've been in groups where there's been people, and it's just been really moving to see that actually this stuff gets in under people's skin in ways that it's just well, that when people are in the thick of it and their child's behavior is just they feel out of control, the children's behavior is violent, aggressive, people are getting hurt, children are dysregulated, adults
mm.
dysregulated. It's the scariest place for people. Um, and you've had days, you've had difficult days at home like I have.
Absolutely. And I think I can share because we always talk about it anyway, don't we? But
Yeah,
some of the calls that we get on our hub, FASD Hub Ireland trademark and FASD Hub Northern Ireland trademark, there's a lot of that. There is a lot of that coming through to the point where it's really hard to, you know, not necessarily advise, but you have to empathize with them and you have to
mm,
validate the fact that it is happening. But in terms of a solution or being able to tell them how it stopped, as a peer kind of
yeah,
chat call, whatever, it is really difficult because everybody is different in terms of that. It's just
absolutely.
not something that you can just solve by going to your book and saying, well, this is how you do it. It doesn't work
ABC.
like that, does it? Yeah, there is no ABC to CCVAB.
Oh,
Oh,
and on that bombshell.
oh my God. OMG. O to them to the G. See?
That is it.
There's
That
no
is
ABC to CCVAB. There you go. You can quote that. You can use that as a meme as long as I get my name
writing
under
that
it.
down. I'm writing that down, Scott. Honestly,
Yeah.
that's the high watermark. You have
That's the second time I've done this in
that's
8 years.
that's that's I am gonna quote you. I'm doing an event tomorrow to about 150 professionals about this. I am gonna,
That's cracking for me. Honestly, I'm on top form tonight.
well,
Seriously.
I am going to employ you to help me to get the word out, and
Well, of
maybe
course,
we should
yes.
rustle up a website for that as well, and I'll see if I
Yeah.
can. I'll chuck you a bottle of prosecco, and you can.
You know me. You know my wages. So.
Oh, I know you're cheap. You're many things, but you are cheap. Um, Um,
Oh dear. Well,
that
congratulations on getting it because
thank you, thank you.
honestly, I know I didn't know much about it, but I know it is a big thing, and I've seen the congratulations flood in over various different social media platforms as you've been boasting about it today. God, it's so boring.
You know
Um,
the best thing is that it's an honorary as well, so I can put it on the end of my name.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Blah, 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 blah. I'm not sure
Shut
my
up.
see my post nominals wouldn't really they wouldn't do the same thing in the industry now because mine's are I do have post nominals, believe it
Do
or not.
you?
I
What
do.
are they?
AMBII.
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 What's that
Associate
stand
member of the
for?
British Institute of Innkeeping. So I'm not sure that would.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. Triss is
Are you still
actually
a
a
member?
fellow. Yeah. Triss is a fellow. I'm an associate member, but it doesn't really have that punch when you're dealing with FASD. So you know,
Poacher turned gamekeeper.
yeah, exactly, pretty much, yeah. So I don't use them. But I mean, if I was to move them all around, it would sound really important, wouldn't it? But
It
no,
was
I
you.
wouldn't
Yeah.
do that. Yeah,
Oh well.
but yeah.
Oh,
So more letters after your name. Well done, congratulations, and all that
yeah.
stuff.
I'm still slightly in shock about there's no ABC to CCV a bit.
I know. Yeah,
I'm gonna be that's gonna be in my head all night. I'm gonna be
yeah.
waking in the morning going,
I just
why
come
isn't
out with them. Do you know when I'm on form, Al?
it
I'm on form,
sparking,
mate.
sparking, man,
I can't help
sparking?
it. All right, it's just the way I am. So
Well,
before we wrap
all
up,
right. Yeah. Yes. 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 Yes.
we're going to be together.
What?
Oh God. See, this is the thing, dear listener.
Should we do
Okay,
it live?
we're going to have to do a live. So we are going to be together on the 8th of July,
A week
Monday
this
the 8th
very
of
night.
July.
Yes.
Yeah. So hide your pogo stick. Just saying, because the boy is going to be there. Um,
Oh, yeah. My flagstones have never recovered.
oh, to be fair, that was what, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You might have calmed down now.
Yeah, hopefully. But yeah, we're going to be together on that evening. So we might do a live, we might do a little recording. I think we do a live. Should we do a live? Because we'll be in the same room. I'll be in that
Yeah.
room that you're now sitting in.
The booth of truth. Yeah. We'll
The
do it here.
booth of truth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we'll have a catch up then. So yeah, dear listener, just pop that into your diary, 8th of July. 8 p.m. Should we just say 8
Yeah.
p.m.?
8
Yeah,
p.m. We'll just say 8
yeah,
p.m. Yeah.
8 p.m.
Perfect.
That's our normal time.
Excellent.
And I'm looking forward to seeing you all because it's I haven't been over since the brain went ping. I haven't seen the good lady C since the brain went ping. So
Yeah, maybe.
no, I haven't.
All
I
right.
know I
Okay.
haven't.
All
I've
right.
seen
Fair
you.
enough. Oh, yeah.
God,
Yeah.
have I seen you?
Oh. Oh. Anyway, I'm going to shoot off. I've got, I think it's one of my children's birthdays today, so I've got to go and seek her out. She's
Oh,
coming
is
from
it?
work. Yeah,
Oh,
31.
yes, it is 31.
I
I
know.
saw that
Shut
earlier,
up.
and I was like, when? What? I didn't even realize she turned 30.
Well, I know. She came to me at 5, and yeah, bless her heart. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, happy birthday to her.
Was,
I will post on our Facebook there because I am friends with her on Facebook. Um,
yeah.
I say
So,
friends, acquaintances.
yeah.
She
So
has
last
been.
week was our 25th anniversary of starting to adopt. Of her moving
Jeez.
in, her and Dick begins moving in. So yeah, so I was a child bride. Anyway, we could keep
Right.
talking forever, and
We
this is
could,
podcast
yes.
gold. So look after yourself. Bon Jovi.
Anchovy.